Okay, this is a painting topic that is something only I have a strong emotional and nostalgic connection to, and that is one specific childhood stuffed animal. I mentioned in a video before that I've always had a thing for emotional support stuffed animals, although it was more of me finding comfort in having a horde of them over gravitating towards just one of them. That was until I was maybe about 13 to 14 years old. Then I picked one that was my favorite. It was a Build-A-Bear that my grandma on my mom's side took me to make with her when I was like 8 or something, and had just been sitting in my closet until then. It was one that I liked more as a memento, which is how I get a lot of my stuffed animals. I use them as mementos for certain events. Like when COVID first started happening, I was on spring break. A spring break that lasted the entire school year, which isn't as fun as it sounds, but I saw their Easter plushes on sale, and I picked up this little chicken lump guy because I realized it was probably a big point in my life with the impending virus. I might as well get something to remember the time by, so at least I got a little chicken buddy out of that global pandemic. What a trade-off. But it's little moments like that I use stuffed animals to remember. Same with vacations. I always had to get at least one wherever we went. But yeah, this Build-A-Bear was a memento of that time with my grandma. But also when I decided it would be my main guy, I decided it would also be my go-to stuffed animal to bring to places that I couldn't get a new one at. For example, one of my most vivid memories was dragging it on a canoeing trip I took with my family. I got myself a little kayak, and there was a little area in the back to secure like a backpack or something, and I just secured my little bunny and was ready to go. But the moment I decided that this would be what I would do with him was because I was getting ready for a Girl Scout trip, my last ever Girl Scout trip, because my best friend would be moving to California not even a few months later, and her mom was the troop leader. I really got out of my comfort zone with Girl Scouts. It helped that the aforementioned best friend was an extrovert who adopted my introvert self, and so I was a lot more confident than I was alone, something I only really realized when she left. I sometimes wonder how I would have turned out differently if I stayed in Girl Scouts and that friend had stayed. I definitely struggled when she left, and it took years to get past it, but even then, I've never really hit it off with another person quite like that, and it kind of sucks to find someone who totally gets you for a change, only to lose them right after. That makes it sound like she died, but she is on the other side of the country, and I don't even talk to her much anymore, so sometimes it feels like she did. But I heard somewhere before that some people are just meant to be in your life for less time than others. And like I said with my passed away cats, I would have rather had the pleasant experience, only to eventually lose it, than to never had experienced them at all. And speaking of this cat, that cat being what I would consider my soul cat, that being Faust, who was only gotten for me as a pick-me-up after losing my human best friend. It was the one and only time she flew back to Indiana to meet up with her old friends, and it was important to me that the two most important quote-unquote people in my life got to encounter each other. Maybe that's a silly way to think about it, but at the time it was important for me. But yeah, back to my bunny plush. I brought it all over on all the different places we went on that trip. It was to Cincinnati, Ohio, and this thing went on a carousel into museums. It stayed in a locker when we went to Kings Island, and was there when we visited a real castle. Well, sort of. It wasn't some medieval era building, but it was notable because it was all made by one guy. My favorite part was this wall with stones people had brought him from all over the world, but most of the rocks he actually sourced himself from the river right by the castle. I remember we went down to said river, and I found a mulberry tree, and it was the last time that I remember I got to taste mulberries. We used to have a little bush of them at our old house in that small town, but they don't sell them in grocery stores, which sucks, because I think they're just much better versions of blackberries. But I remember having to jump up and reach the branches, and then pull them back down to pick the berries. And I remember offering some to the other Girl Scouts, who looked at me like I was crazy for eating random stuff off of a random tree. But it was still a nice memory, and the stuffed animal was there through it all. And after that friend left, I kept on bringing the stuffed animal with me. It was like a way for me to attach that friendship to things moving forward, since it was there for all of it. But since I dragged it everywhere, my brother found it gross, even though I did get it washed after each outing, especially after it fell into the creek while kayaking on that trip. But I brought it to the dinner table one night, and while ranting about it, he called it Hepatitis Bear, even though it's a bunny, and that name was so funny that while its original name was Potato, since it's brown, we ended up just calling it Hepatitis Bear moving forward. But nowadays, I was gifted this little dress thing for them that to me looks like a bumblebee theme, so I've since renamed it Bumble Bunny, or just Bumble for short, hence this painting being of a bee bunny. Even though it's just the most normal and generic bunny plush, I think this is one of the most basic animals you could get at Build-A-Bear, aside from their very generic brown bear plush. And you could tell this guy is older, because nowadays, they put the Build-A-Bear logo on the paw of this bunny design. This one has no such markings, because it's over 10 years old now. But in the painting, to really capture a bug bunny vibe, I gave it 6 legs instead of 4, and of course a pair of bee wings. I was thinking of doing antenna, but I haven't done any jackalopes for my wall yet, and those are kind of a signature creature for me, and I could have the horns be striped like a bee, and make it still keep to the theme. But yeah, nowadays the bunny just sits on my shelf, next to my plush I got seeing the Cats musical for the first time. They're probably 2 of my most important stuffed animals to me. It's kind of embarrassing to mention carrying around a stuffed animal everywhere, from the age of like 14 to 16 or 17. That's like well into my teenage years, but it made me happy, and God forbid I keep a little whimsy in my adult life. I just like the idea of sharing moments with a little soft, cute guy, and in my brain, it makes that item kind of embed with those memories, and it increases its value to me. It's why thrifting is such an interesting concept to me, because you're looking at items that are embedded with the memories of a person you'll never know. My all-time favorite finds was this little cat carving, seemingly made of plaster, and definitely done by hand. It says Firestone on the back. I'm guessing like the tire brand, but it seemed to be this cat's name, and someone clearly cared enough about this cat to carve it, and it's just so cool. And my second favorite find was actually at a garage sale. It was just a silly little Christmas dog lawn ornament, but I actually got to talk to its owner this time, and they asked me to take good care of it, and that she always liked thinking that the things she sold went to good homes. And as a result, I've become very protective over this particular lawn ornament, to the point I don't even let it be put outside. He's an indoor decor item now, since it gets windy around here, and I would be so sad to have him blow away. I think I've heard somewhere before that assigning such strong feelings and personalities to just random items is related to the whole autism thing. But in my defense, my non-autistic aunt also does the same thing. And when I found out about that for the first time, it felt really validating, because I always felt stupid caring about what literal objects think. But again, it gives my life some spark and whimsy, and it encourages me to really value each item that I've bonded to. Although I've always been a little worried that may result in some hoarding behavior, but now it's less of a hoard and more of a collection of memories. Like a plastic water bottle I got when we visited the Statue of Liberty, or my first ever communion cups. Both are technically just plastic trash, but have important memories tied to them, so it makes them valuable to me. I don't just collect random items. It has to have a purpose or memory attached to it, or otherwise it really called to me. But yeah, this painting is almost done. Before I finish, I just wanted to say that Build-A-Bear has consistently kept me in a chokehold, even in my adult life. They even have their own adult-only section. They even have plushies from things like The Office and more adult-based media. I actually got my mom the best birthday present I've ever gotten her through there, since she's obsessed with the TV show Friends, and they had a Friends collection, and I went all out, and I got it a shirt and even its own stuffed animal for the stuffed animal of this lobster, since that was some kind of reference to the show or something. I don't know, I never really got into it. I just like lobsters. I always knew it as just the background television of my preteen and teenage years. But yeah, they've also got just such cute animals nowadays, including my favorite genre of food-themed animals, like this dragon fruit dragon or a watermelon frog, or a candy corn cow. And they also just have some random animals that happen to be my favorites, like water bears, and bats, and Highland cows, and a capybara. If I'm ever at the point of making disposable income, I would be getting at the very least one of their new Build-A-Bears. If I had to choose, I would probably go with the dragon fruit dragon. And they also made frosted sprinkle animal cracker themed creatures, that being a camel and a giraffe, and the camel is just calling my name. But yeah, that's a fun goal, to someday make enough money to buy one of these guys someday. But yeah, this is one more down for my walls. I only have a few left, and then I'll be done.